But that was just disadvantageous inequality. Question remains, do children reject all unequal allocations? Recall that some primatologists and philosophers were not in agreement about whether first-order inequity aversion represents true fairness. In fact, some believe that true fairness wouldn't be present only unless a non-human animal or a human were to reject a very desirable reward when their peer received something more desirable. That is, second-order inequity aversion would be true fairness. Here we're looking at advantageous inequality aversion, which is an analog to this, and it's only been reliably claimed to be observed in humans and possibly chimps. So what about these kids? Are they rejecting advantageous inequality? First, again, let's look at their rejection of equal allocations. So this is a sanity check for children's behavior here. Are they going to reject one-to-one distributions? And we see no, there are very low rates of rejection here. Only ranging from 20% for the 4 to 5-year-olds, 10% for the 6 and 7-year-olds, and virtually none of the older kids at age 8 to 9. So they're still not rejecting equal allocations. What about unequal allocations? Advantageous inequality when they get 4 and their partner just gets 1. Here we can see that there are very low rates of rejection for children ages 4 and 5, about equal with their rates of rejection for equal allocations. And also for children aged 6 to 7, these are statistically undifferentiated from the equal condition. But suddenly, at age 8 to 9, children show a striking change in their behavior, and they suddenly begin to reject advantageous inequality at much higher rates, with an average of half of the allocations rejected. So this finding is really striking. The finding shows that there are 2 developmental trajectories for inequality aversion in young humans. First, disadvantageous inequality aversion emerges early, 4 years old, and grows stronger with age. On the other hand, advantageous inequality aversion emerges late, around age 8 or 9, and it's only then when children seem to start thinking, I had so much, it didn't seem fair, and they reject all of the resources. Next, McAuliffe and colleagues chased after a related question. So this inequity aversion, is it fundamentally social in children? Or are they just mimicking norms or going after patterns in symmetry and numeracy? They're interested in whether children who showed second-order inequality aversion did so because they wanted to appear pro-social, and whether this behavior would be absent if there were no adults or peers present to see what they're doing. Basically, they wanted to know, were these moral concerns about having more than others, were they dependent on socialization? That is, might the previously observed developmental trajectories for inequity aversion, first and second order, require social monitoring? To figure this out, essentially she just brought the apparatus back out and she removed the recipient role. So we just have an actor playing the game without social monitoring of the recipient. The design involves the same kinds of comparisons, rejections in the equal condition, where each recipient was given 1 Skittle, but the actual child is absent. And they want to compare that to cases of disadvantageous inequality, and that's when the child gets 1 and the partner who's absent gets 4. So what are they going to do in that condition now? And then again, they compared the equal trials to advantageous unequal trials. And in this case, the child had 4 Skittles and the absent partner has 1. So the child has the advantage over a recipient who's not there. So what did they find? Let's look at the disadvantageous inequality condition as compared to the equal condition. And this is non-social because the recipient is absent. In the 4 to 5-year-olds, 6 and 7-year-olds, and 8 to 9-year-olds, once again, rejection of equal allocations was very rare. When we look at rejection of disadvantageous inequality, when the child got 4 and the absent partner got, the child got 1, and the absent partner got 4. And they saw that rejection of disadvantageous inequality was markedly reduced from the version of this experiment when the recipient is not absent, is present. Across all age groups, it reduced. You can see that it's for 4 and 5-year-olds down to a little over 20%. For 6 and 7-year-olds, it's not quite half of the time. And for 8 and 9-year-olds, it's around 30 to 40. Remember that these numbers were much higher in the social version of this, where the recipient is there. They actually ran another social condition to be able to directly compare it with their non-social absent partner condition. What they found was a set of numbers that looked really similar to the previous experiments with the partner being present. Kids, when they had a partner that was present, they just simply they wouldn't tolerate that person receiving more than them. But they were more likely to tolerate it when the partner was not there, when nobody was really receiving more than them. How about those findings about advantageous inequality rejection? How do they look in the non-social version when the partner is absent? Previously, they found that 8 to 9-year-olds rejected advantageous inequality that benefited themselves, while 4 to 5-year-olds and 6 to 7-year-olds did not. Interestingly, when they took away that person in the recipient role, when that person was actually absent, we see the effect completely disappear. We don't see that emergence of rejection of advantageous inequality when the child is alone. And again, to look at a comparison with new participants for a social version of the advantageous inequality condition, when a recipient was there in the flesh, 8 to 9-year-olds once again did reject advantageous inequality. And without that recipient there, though, they did not. These findings show that disadvantageous inequality aversion has a non-social component. So children still rejected disadvantageous inequality when the recipient was absent, but at lower rates than when the recipient was present. Social context, though, is clearly really important. Advantageous inequality aversion is specifically social. We saw that 8 to 9-year-olds started to produce that behavior of rejecting allocations when they had more around 8 and 9, but when the recipient wasn't present in those allocation distribution settings, then the effect disappears, and children hang on to those extra Skittles and they take advantage of the greater allocation.